Welcome to another episode of Big Ego Media. I've got a very special guest. In fact, I think it's the biggest guest I've had. We've got former England international goal by the name of Emile Heskey. How are you doing today, sir?
I'm very good, thank you. Yourself?
Not too bad. How was your journey down?
Yeah, good. I was already down here, to be honest with you. So I was at White Hart Lane. I'm on a course at the minute for UEFA, which is a Masters for international players.
I mean, football has changed now, where before you could just decide to be a coach kind of thing. Now you have to go through all the proper qualifications. Do you think that's a good thing?
Yeah, look, I think it's just an understanding and different processes. Sometimes you can jump into a job and you're not knowing what you're actually getting yourself into. This actually prepares you for that, whether it be you wanting to go into youth coaching or you wanting to go higher up. There's a preparation that needs to be put there, so and that's it.
I mean, let's go back now in time. So you was raised where? Where did you grow up?
Leicester.
Leicester. Where was your family background?
Antigua, Caribbean. My dad's from Antigua and mum's from Barbuda. Antigua, Barbuda.
Okay. So do you remember much about the actual culture of your heritage growing up?
Yeah. So every year I'd go there, 6-week holiday, would go there. Got pictures of me when I was there at 1. So yeah, we would go back there every year. Obviously living in Leicester, but of a Caribbean background, the culture was already ingrained in you there. Lived in Highfields, which everyone knows back then would have just been home from home kind of thing. So it's fascinating because it's now outside of Barbuda, the most Barbudans live in Leicester.
Okay, wow.
Because it's like, you want to go to England, go to so and so, he's there over there, and it's just everyone headed towards Leicester.
Okay, I always kind of thought Leicester was a predominantly Asian community, so there is a strong black community there.
Yeah, there is a strong, probably obviously not as big as the Asian community, but yeah, there is a very, very strong black community there.
So myself, kind of growing up in London, it's always kind of seen as a fairly dangerous place. Did Leicester have any of that sort of connotations of you growing up?
I think everywhere you go, you've got that. But when you live within it, you generally you're living. You don't really see it as danger.
Yeah.
I was lucky enough that my parents moved me out of there, but I still went back in there because obviously my grandparents were living there, so I'd stay with them at the weekends. I
mean, how strong was the parent structure for you? Was it both your parents in the home?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, still now. Mum and dad are married, live in Antigua.
How important was having a male role model for you growing up?
Yeah, look, I think it's I don't know any different, so I can only tell you what mine is. Having them both there, it was tough at times because my mum and dad weren't driving, but they were jumping on a bus with me to get to football, get to here, get to that. I always had that, so I can't tell you any different. But yeah, it was great to have that.
Do you kind of remember your first time seeing football, watching football, playing football? What drew you to it? Was that always the ambition of footballer?
It actually wasn't. I was athletics.
Okay.
So grew up in the era of Linford Christie, of your Carl Lewis's. I loved Ed Moses for some reason. So people like that, growing up around that, I was just loved running.
Yeah.
Very quick as a young kid. But then obviously, with training and everything, you can't really just... With football, you just go and play.
Yeah.
With athletics, it's totally different. You can have a couple of races and that's kind of it. You can do a bit of long jump and stuff like that. But football, you can just get your mates on the park and put 2 jumpers down and you're good to go. And the next minute, people are joining in, you've suddenly got an 11v11. Whereas athletics is a little bit different. So fell into more structured football. So that was me really. I actually enjoyed athletics more.
Was you fairly rapid?
Yeah, very quick.
Okay.
I like to think so.
So what's the first team you kind of joined that sort of kind of recognise your talent?
It's another interesting one. So at junior school, playing school football, got recognised by the county football, so the FA, and then Leicester City. So I joined Leicester City, and I did it a little bit different. So everyone would go to Sunday League football first, and then get spotted at. Well, I got spotted at school.
Okay.
Because I didn't do Sunday League because obviously black family, church.
Yeah.
Blah, blah. So got spotted there, and then obviously training at Leicester City, and a parent asked me if I'm what Sunday League team. I said I don't play Sunday League football. And they said, "Oh, would you be interested?" I said, "You have to ask my parents." So I went and asked the parents, and it was like, oh, "Okay, yeah, cool." But it was literally from where I live. It's the other side of Leicester, so you're probably talking about a 40-minute drive.
And was it a thing that where your parents then had to sacrifice church to take you, or did the other parent take you?
Other parents took me, and to be fair, it was good. So they made their way over and made their way back and dropped me off. So yeah, and that's how I got into Sunday League football, which is a bit different to what your traditional one would be. The traditional way would be.
I mean, when Leicester City came in for you, did you know who they were, what they was about?
No, it was the teacher that just basically said, I'm going to send you, scouts have come to watch, they want you to come down to Leicester City, blah, blah, blah. So I went down, Dad took me down, Mum and Dad took me down, and it would be like a Tuesday, Thursday thing. So Tuesday night, Thursday night, when you just go and train, there'd be 60 kids, 50, 60 kids, and then over the years it would be whittled down to a squad. And I managed to get down to that final squad, which was good.
So at the time when you've signed, did you start feeling yourself a little bit like, right, I'm at Leicester? Because there's always that thing with young people, right? When you're kind of better than everyone else, and now you're at a club, you got the tracksuit. Did you have that feel about yourself, like, oh, I can make it?
Yeah, you always get that feeling, don't you, that you're not arrived, but this is a good stage that you're at. So my growth was quite rapid. So at 15, I played under 18s. Okay. Nearly 16, 15/16. I played under 18s. And my very first game, we were losing. I think we were losing 2-1 to Northampton. It was at the cricket ground. Yeah. And back then, you know, they're ranting and raving. So they'd be coming at half time, and the managers actually tore into them. Yeah. And I'm sat there as a 15-year-old thinking, what's going on here? And then he goes, he's coming on now, blah, blah. And I just like, okay, I got stripped, came on, scored 2, got injured, come off, and he tore them into it. We won 3-2, tore into them again. How did you let this young lad come in and help you beat this and blah? So that was basically the start of me, and I started playing regular under 18s football from then.
At that point, would you more, this is my career now, because we see now with academies how many young people, and we look at statistics of footballers, how many don't actually make it in the academy. Once you was kind of there, was you always of the narrative that, yes, I'm going to make it, there's no doubt about it? Yeah, to be honest with you, I didn't have, the fascinating thing, I look back now, I didn't have a plan B. I didn't have any, my mind wasn't set on anything else, going and falling into this and doing that. No, this is what I'm doing, and this is where I'm going to get to, which was probably good and bad, because you've got to have a plan B as well at times. And I was lucky enough to not have the serious injuries, and I had never had a serious injury during my career. Were your parents quite proud? Did they tell everyone in the community? Because as you said, there's a sort of strong sort of community from Antigua over there. Would they say everyone, son Emile? Yeah. They were, to be honest with you. It's like normal parents, isn't it? So, there's fascinating stories, because it's only now that I find out a lot of the stories from cousins. We've got family all over the place. So my granddad's cousin or brother, I think it was his cousin. They live in another. I think they live in St. Croix or St. Thomas or something like that. But now they live in America. And obviously seen the name, and the name's unique. Okay. So he's got the same name, and then he's ringing around and saying, "Who is this?" Obviously in Leicester. He goes, "Oh, I don't know." And this is the weirdest thing: they don't know. For real. And then they rang round, got to my granddad. And asked my granddad, and my grandmother was back living in Antigua at the time. Yeah. Who is this? Oh, that's my grandson. Oh, he plays football for Leicester. Yeah. Well, how does no one know this? But that's how sometimes your family splits in different ways, and no one really knows it. Are quite a unique.
name.
I mean, we live in a day and age now also that, well, where parents, if there's good news as well, don't tell no one, let's keep it to ourselves because you don't want sort of bad juju. Did you ever get that kind of talk as well?
No. To be fair, we grew up in a community that everyone, and this is one of the things you kind of represent in your community, so you want to represent them in the right manner and the right way.
Yeah.
We had a couple that made it from our community. Obviously, I was probably made it to the pinnacle, but there was others that made it in football from the same community, and you all want everyone to do well because it's come from your own community.
Who do you remember in the academy with you at the time? That's kind of a name now.
Good question. Not from my academy. They played.
Yeah.
They had good careers. Stuart Campbell played at Grimsby. He played at Bristol Rovers. He managed at Bristol Rovers actually, and then went to America and managed over in America.
Okay.
Stephen Oakes, Scott Oakes is his brother. Played at Luton. Steph played. I can't remember where Steph went after Leicester. I think he went to Wycombe and places like that. Guy Branston had quite a good career in the lower leagues, and then got to Sheffield Wednesday. And that's it, I think.
I mean, you came in the era when it's broken really, when the Premier League was maybe 2-3 years old at the time. It started in 92, so you kind of broke into 94, 95. At that time, when you saw kind of the money that was starting to be thrown around, not to the, I guess, where it is now, but at that time, did your head spin a little bit like, wow, I'm going to be 17, 18 earning this amount of money? Or was it the money significant at that time?
No, it wasn't. I never actually thought about the money, to be honest with you. I thought about, I'm going to be playing football. I want to be the best at this. And being around that, you always wanted to be the best.
Yeah.
You always wanted to showcase that you're the best. I was playing against, in the national team, I was playing against Henri, Anelka, Trezeguet. This is France, by the way. France's team. Henri, Anelka, Trezeguet, Gallas, Silvestre, Willy Sagnol, Ousmane Darboe.
Some big names there, big names.
That's just my age.
Who was in your England team?
Michael came up, but Michael was 2 years younger.
Okay.
Michael Bridges, Lamps, Carra was the same age. Jamie Carragher. Trying to think who else.
And it's funny to see with the majority of those guys in the same, you guys all went on to have a career. How satisfying is that when you see people in your same age group as young people, and then you grow up and you're playing your rivals on the field in your respective clubs, and then you're playing together again in England like you did as youngsters. Yeah,
it's great to see. Obviously, when you're competing against each other, and then you're able to have the sustainable career that we did. But as well, you've got to remember, it's a little bit different back then, because back then when I came through, especially 95, 96-ish, you were only allowed 4 foreign players in your squad.
Okay.
So it was easier for the English players to get through in that sense. But you still have to be good, but you don't have loads of influx of foreign youngsters coming through. You didn't have that as well.
If you look back at it now, do you think you still would have got through with how the system is now?
Yeah.
That's what I like to hear, confidence.
But with the determination that we had, and I was playing at top level, our age group was good at international, playing against the Totties, players like that. So, what do you think kind of stops young players from making that next level nowadays? Like we have some people who they're the next big prospects, and they kind of relax when they get there. They're not looking at the next. One thing with football, and even just probably with life as well, you write down what you want to achieve. Yeah. When you get to that achievement, where's your next level? And we never really, sometimes we never really look past that next level. It's like, no, I've achieved that now. Where's that next thing? Everyone wants to win a World Cup. Everyone wants to win cups. This thing. But once you win it, where's your drive to win the next one? And that was one of the key things especially at the big clubs. You'll find that they win a cup or they win something, and then within a day that's done. Yeah. Where's my next one? I hear that. So you never live within that moment. It's tough as well.
Do you remember actually making your first team debut? How you felt at the time? Did they tell you the night before? Did you find out on the day?
Found out in the change rooms. So I used to travel with the first team. At 17. and we had a lot of sickness going through the squad at the time.
Yeah.
So I used to travel, help out with the kit man and stuff like that, just to get used to being around the first team, because I'd train with them. I'd play with the reserves as well, and play with the youth team as well for in the cups. Travelled with the first team, went down there, stayed overnight, and in the changing rooms, as he's picking the team, he draws back. So what they usually do, they draw back the sheet of paper and it says the team, says the formation and all that, and I'm up front. So I was 17 at the time, only just turned 17.
Did you see it coming?
No, didn't. To be honest with you, no, didn't see it coming. Wasn't a great game either, but
you couldn't even, I guess, warn your parents that this was happening.
I think they must have told them anyway.
Okay.
Yeah, I think they did tell them. But it's probably the best way to do it, because again, I don't. You get nervous. You don't want them nerves. You don't want to not have a good night's sleep.
Yeah.
I was fine with all that, but then obviously seeing that my name's on the starting lineup, you get a little bit nervous, but that was a good experience.
I mean, you say it wasn't the greatest game. After when you go through and you don't have the greatest game, do you kind of fear for it? Like, oh man, I'm gonna get called up again.
No, I was. It was learning for me.
Yeah.
Because he was quicker, stronger. Everything's just it can pass you by if you're not careful.
Yeah.
But it was just learning for me. It's the next step. By that time, it was weird, because by that time, so I would have been 17. First team, academy football, so 18's football was too easy.
Yeah.
I was probably this size, a lot slimmer, but this size. But I knew how to put myself about.
Okay.
So that was a little bit too easy. It was more than a little bit too easy. I was scoring 3-4 goals a game.
Do you remember your first goal and how it was?
I'd have to look back, but I know it was Norwich away.
Okay.
Yeah, I remember a cross coming in, nipped in the front post, and snuck it in. But yeah, it was a surreal experience, because again, it was just the next step I felt for me to be established.
I mean, who were the senior players in that squad at the time that kind of put their arms around you and said, you know what? Because I think that's very important, having the older players, because we're at the football club at the moment, we're struggling, we ain't got too many senior players, and I think that's where we've not got a balance right. But who was that for you?
Steve Walsh was the main one.
Yeah.
We had Steve Walsh, we had Colin Hill, who actually works for the PFA now. There was loads. Gary Parker was one. He was brilliant. I was actually cleaning his boots at the time. At that time, we were still doing cleaning boots as academy players, youth team players. Yeah. So I was cleaning Gary Parker's boots.
Has that all gone now?
No, we don't do the thing now. No work, no jobs, no cleaning boots.
Why do you think that is? Do you think just that because it needs too much money?
No. It slowly started to come in around the early 2000s, and it was more to do with academies saying, well, what has that got to do with the game of football?
Yeah.
Which I get it, but it's to do with discipline and respect. So yeah, so they just did away with it, and no one does it now. Okay,
wow. So then you made your debut. You scored. You got your first goal. Things are going well. That's the first year. Onto your full season. How did you prepare mentally for that?
It's weird, because I took everything in my stride and never overthink things. I was just like, well, okay, this is going to be. Martin O'Neill had come in by then. Yeah. And he'd already spoken to me to say that you're going to be playing, son, this is what I want you to do, just go out and enjoy it. He was one that would just say, go out and enjoy it and do what you're good at. I was quick, I was strong. He played me on the left wing. We had a lot of forwards, but we didn't have many wingers, so they played me on the left wing. He knew that because I was a young player, he knew that he could mould me into making sure I got back and got up front as well. So he just left me to that, and that's all I did. It was a tough first season for him as well, to be fair. And then towards, I think it was middle of the season, we started to just pick up points and slunk into the playoffs.
I mean, how important are managers? Because Martin O'Neill from afar always seemed like a nice character. He seems mild mannered. Did he ever have that ruthless streak in him?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. If you got on the wrong side of him, he's brilliant. So if you're on the right side of him and you do well for him, he's the best.
Yeah.
If you got on the wrong side of him, you're kind of done. You can pull it back, but you're kind of done.
Yeah.
And we've seen it a couple of times. But he was fantastic. Even when I was at Villa, I'm in a group with the lads, and they still say he's arguably the best manager that they had because of X, Y, and Z.
Yeah.
It's generally down to the way that he made them feel.
I mean, we've got a kind of a manager that kind of, at the moment, he's rollicking the players. Do you think that can work? Can that motivate the players, or do you think that some players might pull their tool and say, I don't want to fight for this guy?
Back in the day, you'd probably that work because, again, the mindset was, I'm going to show you. The mindset of I'm going to show you, I don't think exists anymore.
Yeah.
So, it's like, if you think that, I'm not going to do that then. If you think this, I'm not going to do this. You've got to think of different ways of motivation and different ways of motivating what makes a player tick. What is it? Is it his family? Is it music? Is it this? Is it that? You've got to try to figure that one out. And it's a minefield at times.
I mean, also, managers can make and break players. How, I guess, do you think, how many people do you think didn't have the careers they could have had because of a manager? Because you might be the amazing and one manager's eye, a new person comes, doesn't feel you. What makes a manager see things differently, you reckon?
It's just what they particularly want and what they value.
Yeah.
But it goes the other way as well. You know, you say that certain managers certain managers can kill players when they come in and they don't like that player. But the previous manager loved him. But it could go the other way, where the previous managers didn't like you. Next minute you're a starter and you're doing well.
Yeah, that's right.
It can go both ways, and I've seen it before. So you've just got to work on yourself and understand what is actually the manager wanting. I've watched a player who's a manager now go from basically being told, yeah, you can leave, to working his way back up to be the captain. Okay.
So it can work either way.
Yeah.
So you done decent your first season, and how soon did the Liverpool and other interests come? What other club? I read that Tottenham were interested, Leeds were interested. What happens when there's interest? Is it that they speak to your agent? Did you just see it in the newspaper yourself? Did the club tells you? What happened?
Agents.
Okay.
At the time, probably the agent. But it went back from 16. So I think Blackburn. I think Liverpool. Towards my late teens, early 20s, it was Villa, Leeds, Spurs, and Liverpool.
Did you ever come close to kind of listen to them, or did it make a
once
form?
I knew Liverpool, because growing up with my uncle who was a Liverpool fan, and always being with him, and John Barnes is an icon.
Yeah.
You know, you want to emulate them, you want to do what they've done, and once I knew they were in for me, it was like, yeah, that was it.
I mean, what was the pressure like? Because you broke their transfer record at the time, and just being a black man in Britain playing football, there was still, I guess, that form of racism at the time. Did you feel the pressure going to Anfield and record transfer?
No, not until everyone keeps saying it.
Yeah.
The thing is, you know how good you are.
Yeah.
You know what you can do. You know what you're providing. You know that why they're buying you. So you just go and do that. But then you start to overthink things because people say it. Yeah. So I never really thought about the transfer, because I actually had enough. It's not like I got anything out of that. That's them doing their deal. So I never overthought that. It's not until people keep reiterating, yeah, you went for 11 million.
How different was the setup for going to Leicester? Was you guys at Filbert Street at the time? I think it was. Yeah. And then going to Anfield and seeing how, I guess, European football nights, and how was the difference?
Yeah, crazy. Obviously, I played there because I've obviously played there for Leicester. Yeah. But it's totally different when you're doing the red shirt and you're touching, the badge, etc. But yeah, I think just playing in front of that crowd, singing "You Never Walk Alone," it was just phenomenal to be a part of that and be a part of a rise as well. To be honest with you, I'd gone from, with all due respect, I'd been at Leicester where we're supposed to be getting relegated, and we've gone to 3 cup finals in 4 years. Won 2 of them. And then now coming to a Liverpool side where Gerard Houllier is there trying to rebuild things. I don't think they've been to a final since 90, I would like to say 94 or something like that.
Yeah, I mean, also, let's just talk about it, like winning 2 cups with Leicester at the time, who are not fancied. I mean, do you remember, was it Wembley at the time as well? Yeah, going to Wembley, first time ever, it's what we dream of as kids, and you kind of got there. How was that?
Yeah, I'm doing it at, I think I was just 19.
Did you start the game as well?
Yeah. I was just turned 19. Amazing, to be honest with you. And then, you look back at things and you say, one of the biggest things was I got my grandparents to come and watch me play.
Oh, amazing.
At Wembley before she passed away. And yeah, it was just a great event to go there. And the fascinating thing is, you look at cup finals now, that cup final went to a replay.
Okay, wow.
So we drew with Middlesbrough. We got battered by Middlesbrough the week before, or 2 weeks before. We got battered to like 4-0. And Martin just come up with this thing of Pontus Karamark, go mark Janino, follow him everywhere he goes. And he literally followed him for a year. And it worked. We drew that game. I scored in the final. We drew that game 1-1, and then Claridge scored at Hillsborough to win it for us. So yeah, it was crazy that goes to a replay.
Yeah, it's amazing.
But yeah, it's just every kid's dream to, and no one dreams of actually really taking a Leicester team to a cup final.
Yeah.
I managed to do that, and then 2 years, not the following season, the season after we went again, we lost to Spurs in the final, and I was injured that final. I had a muscle imbalance, and I was struggling with my back, I was struggling with everything. I actually had injections to just get through the game. It didn't work, to be honest with you, and then I had to go and see a specialist and to sort myself out, and once I got it was fine. And then went back again, and we played the following year, and played Tranmere in the final and won 2-1. Matty Elliott scored 2 in the final.
I mean, it's crazy. Just gave me some memories there. Tranmere got to the finals of the. That is crazy when you think about it.
Is it Challoner's throw, the long throw?
Yeah. But then again, I remember Millwall getting to the final against United a few years back as well, 05 or 06 or something like that. But then let's talk England career. Like, when was your first actual senior call up?
Hungary, was it Hungary away? Yeah, Hungary away. I was in and around the actual England setup for a long time. So I got called up at 16. It's a weird one because I don't know how it all come about. So I was asked to go to a trial.
Yeah.
So I went to the trial, done well at the trial at 16. Next minute, I'm in the Euros with England under 16s. I was like, well, I've never actually been in and around it because we used to do England schools. So they used to go to Lillishall, Jermaine Defoe, all these people were there. Jody Morris was there. So yeah, we used to go to that sort of stuff, and I'd never been in and around that.
Yeah.
Because I remember actually you're supposed to go on trial for that. My mum didn't want me to leave and go to that school and then be playing football there as well. So I never went to the trial. I just been to the trial and stayed at Leicester. But then obviously did well at Leicester, and then let's go on the trial. I went to the trial, ended up in the Euros. Playing with Marlon Brooms, you remember him from Blackburn? He was the main player.
Okay.
John Curtis. Them two were the main 2 players. So I've been throughout 16s, went to 18s, 21s, and the next step is the full England. So I've been on a training with Glenn Hoddle, etc. and then got the opportunity to put on the shirt and make my debut. So yeah, it's
And how was that feeling?
amazing.
God save the Queen.
I would come on a sub, but yeah, it was
okay.
It was just an amazing feeling to be in the first team, national team. That's what everyone looks at as the pinnacle, isn't it?
Yeah. Were your parents at the time as well?
So that was away, so no.
Oh, okay. So when you finally you're now an established England player, is the goal to I need to remain here, I need to stay here? Was you always in the team after that, or was it kind of in and out at the time?
I kind of established myself, especially with Michael.
Yeah.
So with Michael, I played with Michael from under 18s. Michael played my under 18s. Michael's 2 years younger than me.
Yeah.
Michael was playing up with us, and we just formed a partnership that just took me all the way. Well, took us both all the way. He obviously jumped up. I think he played one game at under 21s, and then went straight to the first team, and I came through the whole thing.
I mean, how good was Michael Owen? I remember 98, yes, World Cup 98. I think I was between 12, 13, and just sitting there in awe of this young kid who's maybe 5 years older than me, like Michael Owen. Everyone's talking about him. How good was he? Because I think people don't, because of all these injuries, people don't really put him up there anymore.
They don't appreciate him, to be honest with you. I think when you're looking at all these younger, I know you shouldn't really compare them. No one really gets close to Michael. For me, Michael was playing under. He was a 15-year-old playing under 18s and making it look easy. Yeah. Where teams are making tactical decisions off a 15-year-old. And just taking it step by step all the way up. From 15, everyone knew in the country who Michael was. Yeah. So and then he's always taking them next steps. At 16, he's a first team player. 17, he's established. Scoring goals as well.
I mean, what was it about him? Was it his sheer speed at the time?
I think his pace and his ability to be calm with that pace in that moment to finish. I think that was a key thing, because you've got a lot of players who have pace, but they don't know how to slow themselves down and pick that finish. And that was one of the things that Michael could do all the time. And
you guys had that partnership in Liverpool as well. How important was that, taking that onto the international stage as well? Was your building?
Yeah, it was great. And it wasn't, the fascinating thing, it wasn't something that, it just clicked straight away. It wasn't something that we worked on, overly worked on. It just, I knew what he wanted, I knew how he played, he knew how I played, and it just worked. It just married really well. And we just took it to every stage.
I mean, you was given the moniker, which growing up young people say, oh, the Heskey role. Is that something you kind of accepted, or did you think it done you a disservice for your overall game?
I accepted it. But my overall game was very good. Yeah. When you look at even like if you ask Tony Cottee will say, I got 3 more years out of my career because of you. Okay. I'm like, but this is what football's about. It's about partnerships. It's about team, and that was one of the things that I was key on. I didn't overly think about myself. Yeah. It was what can we achieve, and that was why Leicester ourselves made it so big as well. To go from coming up in the playoffs just about, and then to go finish 10th in the league and above 10th and go to 3 cup finals in 4 years. It's not bad. No, it's not bad at all. It was all about the team.
Do you think because all these formations we get now, I mean, traditionally playing football, I just remember the 4-4-2. Yeah. Everyone played 4-4-2. You might have the 3 at the back every now and then, but now everything has changed. Now you got the 4-2-3-1, the 4-3-3. Has that killed the target man striker?
A little bit, yeah. Because everyone wants someone who's a bit more dynamic up there on his own. And it's fascinating now that if you watch 2 forwards playing up front together, they don't know how to do it. Yeah. They're both doing the same runs. They stand way apart from each other. They don't work together. Whereas me and Michael, if a ball come over my head and I could just about get to the head it, I knew exactly where Michael wanted it.
Yeah.
Michael knew exactly where to flick around the corner. Look, York and Cole, just overs and spin and drop it off there. No one does all that anymore. You're trying to teach kids that now, because they've gone throughout the whole system now as one forward.
Yeah, it's crazy because you remember like partnership, Saturn and Shearer. I remember you and Owen, Good Johnson and Hasselbank. As you mentioned, Cole and York.
Kevin Phillips and
now Quinn. Yep. So, do you think that might, because everything always comes back in generations, do you think that can ever come back, or is it too outdated now?
It's probably too outdated, but there needs to be some sort of function of it, because again, everyone wants, every now and again you need two up front, or you want two up front. So there needs to be a bit of work to be done on it, because like I said, when you're going three at the back, you generally say you're going to go with two up front. So, but you go with two up front, and one stands on the left wing and the other one stands on the right wing. No one's actually in the middle, and no one's working off each other. So yeah, it just needs a little bit of work, but it will come back round, because that's it. Nowadays, people will. If you look, even City, when they defend, they actually defend in a 4-4-2.
Okay.
They don't attack in 4-4-2, but when they defend, you see De Bruyne goes higher up.
Do you remember your first tournament with England, senior? Which one was that? Which tournament was it?
2000.
2000, the Euros.
Yeah.
France won that. Yeah, they did.
Was it Belgium and Belgium and France, wasn't it?
Yeah. So again, there's so many English players wanting to get into that. I think 23-man squad. Like, was you adamant? Was you already playing matches kind of towards that, so you kind of knew your place was secure, or was you always kind of nervous? Was it Kevin Keegan as well?
Yeah, Kevin Keegan. I wasn't nervous, but I knew that I had half a chance because I was different to everyone else.
Yeah.
So you're looking at that time, probably Kevin Phillips. I'm surprised Andy Cole wasn't more involved.
Yeah.
Trying to think who else. So it was Michael and Shearer, and then Robbie was there, myself, Kevin Phillips. But then you still had, like I said, you still had your Suttons, you still had Andy Cole, you still had Stan Collymore.
Yep.
So yeah, you had a lot of great players, but I was a young lad who gave you something different.
So I mean, you just mentioned some great names there, especially you mentioned Andy Cole. Why do you even, I guess, less further to an extent, Andy Cole and Ian Wright? Why was there not play? Maybe I was too young, I can't remember. Why didn't they get enough England chances? Was it just Shearer was too great and he was the golden child?
I think it was Shearer. Shearer was Shearer at the end of the day. He was scoring a lot of goals at that time in the Premier League, and we've got to take your hats off to him. He was the main man. And then it was who plays with Shearer, and Teddy Sheringham had a really, really good partnership with him at that time.
Yeah.
And at the end of the day, I'm watching Andy Cole score 40 plus goals for Newcastle, and you're like, well, how isn't he playing? But you've got a golden player there, and it probably didn't. They probably thought that them two didn't work together.
Yeah. I mean, I saw something recently. Someone said there's politics in football at that time where you had to have a quota of black players. I think Graham Taylor or something like that. Do you believe that was the case, or do you believe that it still exists now? Because now
he said that himself.
I remember there was kind of a quote that came out at the time. I don't know if he said it or not, so I don't want to put any words in your mouth. Yeah. But if you don't know about it, then
I don't know.
Yeah, we'll move from it.
But again, I think when you're looking at it, Shearer at that time was Shearer. He was scoring a lot of goals, and it was just him and Andy Cole who was scoring a lot of goals at that time. But you got to remember, Andy Cole was playing up front with Beardsley.
Yeah.
Beardsley was the one that was probably really good for Andy Cole at the time. So then, if you put them two up front, if you put Coley and Shearer up front, it might not have worked.
Yeah.
That's the only way I could possibly look at it. But I was watching Andy Cole's smash goals, especially at Newcastle as well.
I mean, how was your tournament at the time, the Euro? Did you get to play much?
I played the first game. I came on at half time for Michael, and then I don't think I played after that. But it wasn't a great tournament for us anyway.
Yeah.
But yeah.
I mean, how are you with managers? Are you a player that if you're not playing, you'll go and speak to the manager and say, oh, why am I not in? Or if you're being substituted, you ask questions, or you just leave it to them?
Leave it to them, to be honest with you. I wasn't one that talked too much. I was fairly reliable, so if you wanted me to do something, you tell me to do it, I'll go and do it.
Yeah.
So yeah, I never, if a manager pulls me off at half time or pulls me off, what's the point? You're going to get into an argument as well, and that's quite emotional. So you're probably best off waiting until another time.
What were the matches where you've kind of felt so aggrieved you wanted to speak to the manager but you couldn't at the time, and you just thought you're not going to leave it, but it really kind of, it was kind of your down moment?
I had an argument with Martin O'Neill.
Okay, wow.
Yeah. I was at Villa at the time, and it was just one thing after another, and then it was just Martin. I felt, and this is, I'm going to state, I felt that because I'd left Leicester at 22, so he still thought I was that player. I'd come to Villa at 31.
Okay.
So I'm a totally different player, totally different man. So at that time I thought, yeah, you can speak to managers, you can sit down with a manager, have a little conversation, but Martin was still the kind of old school, don't as you told, not you do as I say, kind of thing, which is fine. I was cool with it. But then it was like, I felt that there was a certain way to talk to, especially a senior player. But
yeah, I mean, did he do it in front of everyone else?
Yeah.
So, because we've got that kind of balance now as well, where, like, with our current manager, well, he's the technically I'm the manager,
Yeah, okay.
but he's the interim manager coming over. So I'm giving him, like, come in and have experience and learning how it is, so you can take over next year. But is it okay to you to speak to younger players like that, and not so much the senior players, because then it undermines the senior players? Is that what you're kind of saying?
No, I just thought that it was a certain way of dealing with it. Okay, at the end of the day, if you've got to address someone, you've got to address them. And it wasn't that; it was just the way that it was done. It was a funny one. So it started from before.
Okay.
Another game, and basically, and I hadn't played, by the way.
Yeah.
So the players who were playing had a bad game, but instead of telling them that they had a bad game, it kind of came at me to say, if you were doing better, you'd be playing.
Wow.
I'm like, well, I have a go at them. I didn't play. So it was just the way that it was done at the time.
Do you think that's also kind of trying to exert power? Because you've got a senior player being an England international.
Senior players as well at the time.
Yeah, I guess so. So after that, the World Cup, the pinnacle of any childhood dream. 2002, did you go?
Yes.
Of course you did.
Yeah.
How was that then compared to the Euros and that experience?
An amazing experience, to be honest with you. Like you're saying, you dream of lifting that World Cup. You dream of going, and you dream of lifting that World Cup. Everyone's dreamt of it. Everyone have visions of themselves doing it.
Yeah.
So for me, being at the World Cup was like, wow. And I'm a senior player, not a senior player, but I'm a established player.
Yeah.
So I remember the first game. I think it was Sweden. I played left wing.
Okay, wow.
It was Michael and Darius, which pretty similar players. So I'm guessing it didn't work as much. And then the following games I played the Argentina game. Yeah. And Sven was really good. Sven was I enjoyed Sven because again tactically he was just like, I need this and this and blah blah.
He never fazed me for someone to be one of anger. No. He just spoke to you quietly.
Calm.
Yeah. Because people say the same about Wenger.
Yeah, calm. So he used tactics, so you get the board out, show you everything, blah blah blah. And just I enjoyed it. I know a lot of people probably didn't.
Yeah.
I enjoyed my time with him.
I mean, I think you scored against Denmark, was it not?
Denmark, yeah.
It was a 3-0 win, if memory serves me right. Was that your first ever World Cup goal?
Yes.
And what's that going through your head? You scored a World Cup goal.
You know what? I think Beck's played it across, and I'm just thinking, get good contact with it and keep it low. And was it Sorensen? Yeah. I went underneath him. Yeah, I just remember the feeling, and yeah, something that you dream of.
Nah, to me, that's like one of my kind of biggest regrets in life, because as a young person, I always thought, yeah, I'm gonna make it. I played the World Cup. So for when you actually do that, do you actually look back and say, I actually played in a World Cup? This is crazy.
And scored.
And scored, yeah.
The fascinating thing is people will say, oh yeah, playing in the World Cup is pinnacle. And scoring in the World Cup, yeah, it's just another level as well. So.
It's blowing your mind at the time.
Yeah.
And then obviously with Ronaldinho on the scene. I mean, how good was that Brazil team?
Amazing.
Yeah.
Yeah, amazing. And you look back now and you think, but the thing is, you know, when you're up against them, we're like, yeah, come on, I'm up for this. Yeah, we're gonna beat them. Go 1-0 up. I played the ball through for Michael. Lucio made a mistake, and then Michael nicked in and scored.
Yeah.
But I've only just heard Michael was talking about he was injured.
Okay, wow.
Okay. But he scored in that game, and then obviously I think it was Ronaldinho gets the ball, does a step over, plays out to Rivaldo, bends it into the corner, then he scores that goal, and then gets sent off, and we're thinking, yeah, come on. But yeah, they're another level. When you look at it, right, we've got Michael, who's a Ballon d'Or winner. They've got Ronaldo, Rivaldo, and Ronaldinho.
Crazy.
On the pitch, all top players, and all Ballon d'Or winners. Then Kaká on the bench, another Ballon d'Or winner.
Yeah, that's crazy. I mean, football, you're kind of taught, like, you know what, we win as a team and we lose as a team. When David Seaman concedes that, is there like resentment towards him? Oh, fucking hell, David, man. Because everyone kind of does the fake, no, it's alright. But really true, like, you seething over the play at the time.
To be honest with you, no.
No.
I wasn't, but I know some people. I definitely know some people would have been, but no, I wasn't. I wasn't ready to go home, though.
Yeah.
If I'm honest with you, I was ready to go to the next stage. So I was gutted, to be honest.
I mean, then your 2004, I don't think you was in that. Was you? You was in the 2004 squad. I think it was 2006 that you wasn't in.
2006, I went to 2010. We didn't qualify for 28.
28, yeah. So I mean, there was that huge hiatus in between that. Did you at one point ever think, when you, they don't want me anymore?
No, you know what? No, because I had confidence in my own ability.
Yeah.
And that was the funniest thing. So I knew that they were going to come back calling.
So you always kind of knew that.
The worst thing for me was, like, it's just the way they deal with it. So yeah. I played in 2004, and then I didn't receive any correspondence at all until I got called back up.
Okay, right. So no one talks to you at all, they just leave you to it?
Leave you to it. And then the fascinating thing is they just call you up. So I get a call, and I'm like, what's this number?
Yeah. I'm
at Wigan at the time. What's this number? I'm like, oh. And I don't really like to answer them, so I'm like, alright, let me answer it. Emile, hi Emile, it's Steve. Hi Steve. Who the hell is Steve? Emile, it's Steve McLaren. I went, hi Steve. Then I realised that, nah, this is serious, because at that time there was these you get some of the players, I think it's great pranks to call other players and pretend to be, and they get you in actually in a conversation with them, thinking that it's someone else.
Yeah.
But it really was him. I've spoken to Michael and want to call you back up, blah blah blah. I'm like, oh, okay, cool. And that was when I got called back up, and it was good. It was a lot of negativity, but it was good.
I mean, how did you deal with negativity? And at that time, it's not as hostile as it can be for players now, because now we've got the emergence of Twitter, Instagram, TikTok, everyone's got opinions. At that time, you hear things, maybe the newspapers. How did you deal with that at the time?
The thing is, I keep newspapers away from myself. Okay. And we had one England manager used to spoil the newspapers all over like in your in a dining room. Yeah. You're like, why would you do that? Why would you even give me that negativity? I don't need that. When we're in a tournament or when we're going to play a game, I don't need all that. Yeah. Leave it out. So I never really looked at any of that. But then you got your mates who are just brain dead. They'll send you clippings and stuff like that.
And did you sort of like want to quit at any time, or was it all that, you know what, I'm going to prove everyone wrong again?
Nah, you know what? No, because I knew that I knew my ability, and I just wanted to prove, not prove anyone else. I wanted to prove to myself. I'd say no, they're going to come back calling.
Yeah.
And I knew it. I'd already said it. And then when obviously I got the call up, all that negative. But I was older by then, so what would I have been? I'd have probably been about 28.
Okay.
So I was older, and you're wiser, and you know how to brush things off a little bit more. You don't hold on to that resentment. You don't hold on to any feelings or anything. You just move on.
Yeah. I mean, after you left Liverpool, you went on to, was it Wigan at the time? No, Birmingham first. Birmingham, yeah. And did it feel like a climb down at the time?
Yeah. But it's going to be a climb down, isn't
it?
Yeah. But again, I was up for the fight. I was up for that battle. So moved to Birmingham. The fascinating thing is, moved to Birmingham and then Liverpool go and win the Champions League. So
was it usually the year after?
Yeah. So I would have added the Champions League to the treble that we won as well. So.
Yeah.
But went there. I actually enjoyed my time at Birmingham as well. But it's interesting. So I've gone from having Stevie G, having Paddy Berger, having Didi Hammond, having Danny Murphy, having Michael, having all these players around me. All I have to do is make runs.
Yeah.
They've already seen me. Just make a run, and they've already seen me. They'll play. When the ball comes into you, people are making runs off you. All you have to do is play. To then move into a club where things are done a couple of seconds later.
Yeah.
So you're making runs, and you're like, you're not even looked up. Make another one, still not looking up. You're getting a hold of the ball, and then no one's really wanting it. You're having to maneuver it again to try and find passes.
Yeah.
So it was frustrating at first, but then you've got to figure it out. You can't just keep getting vexed with people. You've got to figure it out. But I enjoyed it, and it was just something different.
Was there any teammate that you just said, I don't like this guy, that you just done you? Like you know, there's some people in life where you don't feel the energy no matter what. You don't have to say names. But
no, I don't think so. I try and find the best out of everyone, to be honest with you.
Because you always hear that famous one that Sheringham and Cole never spoke to each other at all, and we wouldn't even know that until they spoke about it.
Yeah, no, I didn't. No, not really.
Okay.
So that I didn't get on with anyone. I was like, I don't like him because of blah, no.
Right, last few questions, and I mean, looking back at your career, what's the most pivotal moment that you would forever say, you know what, I, Emile Heskey, done this?
No, I've got so many points though, innit?
No, you only have one. You only have one.
Do you know what? It would obviously be that game at Northampton then.
Okay.
Because that pushed me to somewhere else, where put me on a trajectory that just went up. And then, don't get me wrong, I have belief, but then your belief goes to another level.
Yeah. I totally hear that. I mean, let's also touch on kind of on fame and fortune. How do you kind of sort of keep a balanced head, being someone who's affluent, and then having family, and then having to say no to, because everyone's been through that, where you got a bit of money now, uncle, auntie they've not heard from ages ago, can I be this?
It's very tough.
Yeah.
It's very, very tough. But I would have to say, if you can do it early enough, say no.
Have boundaries from early.
Yeah, because you set a precedence when you just keep doing it. And then as well, your yes has no value until you can say no. Did
you ever have those situations where once you said no?
You have them all the time.
Do you still get that now?
You have them all the time.
I can imagine. And how's fatherhood? You got 6 children.
7.
7 now. Okay, really. How has that changed you as a man?
I would like to think it's changed me for the better. I had kids when I was very young.
Yeah.
I had my first at 20.
Okay, wow.
Second at 21. My third at 24.
Wow, okay.
Well, I wasn't 20, I was 23, but I was a week away, 4 days away from 24.
Yeah.
So I have my kids very, very young, the older ones. If I was to look back, I would probably say have them a little bit later. Only reason being is it would be nice for them to appreciate what I've done.
Yeah.
And not not live the roller coaster ride that I'm going through. And that was the only thing that I would probably look at there. But yeah, they're all like my eldest daughter's at uni. Yeah. Sheffield. My eldest boys went to uni.
So none of them got into football?
I got two in football, the younger ones.
Okay.
Both ones playing under 18s.
Okay. Are they enjoying it? Can you see the future in them in regards to following your footsteps?
I'll tell you this, they're better than me when I was at that age.
Okay.
I was more probably suited to adults football.
Okay.
So I played with adults from the age of 12?
Yeah. You also always get the sort of a father, if you played a certain position, will encourage his children to play that position as well. Is that something like, guys, you have to play striker?
I didn't encourage them to play football.
Okay.
It's their mum that they did.
Yeah.
I always took a step back. I always took a step back because I don't want to push them into anything. So I never encouraged my sons to play football. Their mum took them. And when I went to watch them train, I was like, oh, no. But then their mum told me to leave them. Yeah. I left them. Within 3 months, they were flying. Okay. So then you enjoy experiencing what they're doing, because some of the stuff they were doing, especially at say 8, 9, 10, some of the stuff that I'm doing as an adult. You're like, But they're growing, and their football education is a lot better than mine. So they're actually further ahead than me. But I was an adult at 16, 17, 18, so I can just jump into adults football, whereas they're still kids.
I mean, how difficult is it for the young generation as well, who had fathers as footballers? Is it a bit easier because you got the connections? Because I seen the other day David Beckham going to see his son play for Brentford under 23s or something like that, or Brentford B team, and I see Dennis Bergkamp, his son playing for Bromley, and you're thinking, Dennis Bergkamp, Bromley, like surely you can give a call to someone and say, or is it that if someone's just not good enough? And I think Shevchenko's son was struggling to find a team. Do you think it doesn't matter who your father is?
It doesn't really matter who your father is. Again, you'll get perks of having the father, but then you're judged in a different light as well. You've got to remember, my kids are going to probably be judged in a different light, blah, blah, blah. Lampsey's kids viewed in a different light. Beck's, free kicks, he's got to hit every free kick. Yeah. Do you know what I mean? So he's judged in a different light. So that's going to be the tough side of it. But yes, you'll get the perks of, you'll probably be given more chances.
Definitely.
But you'll be judged harsher.
So to end on this one then, so if you could give any young footballer out there right now any advice on best practices to go out and strive, maybe they might not make it, but just go on to strive, and what would you kind of encourage them to do?
Within football, you mean?
Within football, yeah.
It's an interesting one. So I would probably say enjoy the whole experience of the football, not just the actual bit that you're in there now. Because as well, look what you're doing, Bobby. They still need this within football. But people go, oh no, that's beneath me, that's this. No, you still need that. You still need coaches, you still need sound engineers, you still need data analysts, you still need football analysts. You still need everything outside of football you need in football. Yeah. So there's always something that you can do within there, and within that atmosphere, within that football arena. So you don't have to think, oh well, I didn't make it there doing that. Oh, I'm just going to go and I'm getting out of this. Yeah. No, you can still stay within that, and especially the ones that all they've known is that.
No, I totally understand. And last question: a few years from now, Leicester City manager Emile Heskey.
I can't see it at the minute. The thing for me is growing myself as a coach, and seeing where I fit. Because again, you don't know if you fit as a youth coach. We've got a fantastic coach in Brendan at the minute, and started off at Chelsea Academy under Mourinho. So you've got to build yourself. You've got to build and see where you fit. I'm enjoying the coaching, and I'm enjoying working with the younger age groups at the minute.
Is it still harder for black coaches?
It's always going to be harder. The thing for me is, it's still a bit of who you know, not what you know. Which, if you notice, it happens in nearly every industry.
Yeah, for real.
So there is a bit of a cleaning up to be done in football, but that bit I don't think will go away quickly. But it just needs. You're looking at Rossini doing really well. It's a bit unfortunate with Colo.
Yeah, I mean 9 games. That's just ridiculous.
What you're really supposed to be achieving in 9 games. But I always say you're 10 games away from being sacked. In any league. So yeah, we just need to be given an opportunity to just go out there and perform.
I appreciate it, man. Thank you very much for your time. Like, honestly, great conversation. That there, guys, another big Egon interview, and that was the legend that is Emile Heskey. Thank you.